Now, I've got more to say about our interstate borders. As I mentioned, the reason I had last week off, and thanks again to Chris Smith, it was a great week on the program, but the reason I had the week off was to catch up with family back in South Australia. My wife and I hadn't seen our parents since the Christmas holidays. Our kids hadn't seen their grandparents. And with the South Australian Liberal Premier Stephen Marshall finally opening the border to New South Wales, way overdue, of course, it never should have been closed, but anyway, given it was open at last, we needed to get the kids over there to see their grandparents, and we had a lovely time, by the way. Do it while you can. But get this, before we flew to Adelaide, we had to fill out a travel form with all our details, etc. It was called our Cross-Border Traveller Application. Can you believe it? To go from Sydney to Adelaide in a free country. And when we got to Adelaide, there was a quarantine containment area set up with police and dozens of public servants waiting to grill us all, double-check our identities and contact details and question us. Now, this is extraordinary. More onerous, I think, and more over the top than you get flying into some countries overseas. Now, that's all silly and it's overbearing enough, of course, but what really did my head in was one question they demanded we answer. Why are you coming to South Australia? What are your reasons for coming to South Australia? Really? You need a reason to cross a state border in Australia these days? What level of authoritarian nonsense is this? What level of nanny state stupidity? What possible business is it of theirs to wonder why we were coming to town? And what possible difference could it make? Unless we said we were secretly infected with COVID-19 and planned to spread it as widely through their state as we could. I reckon coronavirus has some serious side effects, and one of those is to diminish the IQs of many of our political leaders. Joining us now from the Tourism and Transport Forum is the CEO, Margie Osmond. Thanks for joining us again, Margie. You must be getting so frustrated with these border closures and the like.
Oh, look, it's just crazy. You know, I mean, if we can open up to New Zealand, even if it's only a semi-bubble, you know, the whole exercise in terms of Victoria and Queensland and Western Australia is just a nonsense.
But hang on a second, you want more New Zealanders to come, not fewer, yet you've got the Premier of Victoria screaming the last couple of days about New Zealanders as if they're lepers and hunting them down to knock on their door. And what, just to warn them that he didn't know they were coming to his state? It's just over the top.
Well, it is crazed. And you did see the Deputy Prime Minister come out today and say, well, come on, look, really, these are people coming from a country that has lower community transmission than we do, and more to the point, have to be able to show they haven't been anywhere near a hotspot or a problem area for 14 days before travelling. So lighten up is my recommendation. And I have to say, both Sydney and Melbourne Airport are really well geared to manage all of this process, and irritating as some of the questions might be.
Well, they're just absurd.
I think there's a system.
They are just absurd. I expect it when I go to North Korea or East Berlin back in the day, but I don't need to be asked why I'm turning up in Adelaide. They should be thanking me for gracing their state with our presence.
I'm wondering if it might be something a lot simpler than that, like government wanting information for marketing purposes or whatever else, collecting data about the next round of visitors coming. Well, it could be something as simple as that.
If so, I say bugger off. It's just shocking. Now, let's get back to New Zealand, because I think this is crucial, right? You, of course, would love to see this two-way. That's going to increase the tourism opportunities both sides. At the moment, only New Zealanders can come here. Do you think with the election out of the way and the thumping win by Jacinda Ardern that maybe she'll loosen it up further and have two-way travel?
Well, I certainly hope so. I mean, look, the tourism industry, as you and I've discussed before, Chris, we're 100% behind the right kind of health reasons for wanting to slow down openings of borders, etc. But I think we're past that now with New Zealand. And quite clearly, states like New South Wales, the Northern Territory and others, Queensland, you know, there's virtually no transmission at all. And more to the point, we've probably got the best contact tracing system in the world. So as a consequence, if there is a problem, we're on it like a duck on a June bug.
Yeah, well, look, it is good news, but the pace of reform and opening up is glacial, and there are still these hard borders with the states. So what hope do you have with Queensland? Nothing will change till after the election, presumably.
Oh, look, I think there's a growing understanding amongst the Queensland population that not only has this been a terrible year, but if those borders don't open soon, they won't be seeing Granny at Christmas either. And I do think that many of your average citizens in Queensland are starting to think about it a little differently. We are in a situation where there's an election there at the end of October. I would very much hope that the Queensland government will see its way clear to perhaps rethinking at that stage. And to be honest, in terms of New Zealand, the vast bulk of leisure tourists from New Zealand are interested in going to Queensland. Everybody else is coming here to visit friends and family. And how lovely were those pictures last week of people getting back together with loved ones?
Fantastic. I'm just trying to keep an eye on your dog in the background, make sure he's not up to any, make sure he's not up to any mischief. But I mean, you're right. The New Zealanders, as you would, coming out of a cold winter in New Zealand, they want to get to New Zealand, and Anastasia Palaszczuk is foolishly pushing her hand back and saying, don't come here, don't spend your money here. Those businesses in Queensland must be just absolutely at death's door.
Absolutely, and really for the people in far north Queensland, it's even worse because they have relied in the past so much on international visitors. So when you look at that southeast corner of Queensland, there's a fair bit of intrastate travelling, lots of locals doing a bit of this and that, and you've now got yet another semi-bubble in far northern New South Wales. But my heart really goes out to all of the tourism operators, but particularly those in northern Queensland.
Yeah, well, they should just open up. There is no reason for that not to be open for tourism right now, all right?
I'm putting my money on Christmas in Queensland.
Oh, yeah, all right. Thanks for joining us, Margie. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'll tell you one thing that's worked all right in Queensland is I've hosted the AFL finals. The wrong teams have been winning, I suppose, but a couple of Victorian teams will play the grand final in Brisbane on the weekend with taxpayers, Queensland taxpayers' money chucked in. But have a look at Lachie Neale, the great Brisbane Lions champion, who unfortunately lost the prelim final on the weekend. But he won the Brownlow last night, and because of coronavirus, no one dares hang it over his shoulders. He had to take it off a little podium himself and drape the Brownlow medal, the prestigious Brownlow medal, around his own shoulders. These are weird times, aren't they? But a great win there by Lachie Neale, an absolute champion. Sadly, the Lions didn't get up. Now we'll actually bring you up to date. We'll have some good stuff on the AFL and our own finals later in the week.